So
All
my name
right.
is Christy Thompson. I do marketing here with our team, and I want to introduce you to our webinar host today, who's going to be talking about cybersecurity leadership. So this is Ikram Masabini. He's the CEO of MVP Network Consulting. He has 25 years of IT experience. He also is an expert IT security consultant and has multiple security certifications, including HIPAA consultant and auditor. He has a BS in electronic engineering, and that's how you can get in touch with him there. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it over.
Thank you,
Ikram?
Christy. Yep. Can you guys hear me okay, Christy? Good. All
Yes,
right.
sir.
Thanks.
Coming through
Thank you.
great.
All right. Just making sure. And I want to introduce you guys to somebody else who's going to help me today in this webinar, which is Cody Adair. Cody has been with us for 13 plus years. He's our Vice President of Security Operations, so he handles everything security. He helped create the stack that we're going to talk about. He is our main Chief Security Officer across the board for all our partners. Cody has 20 plus year of IT experience. He's a CISSP certified security professional and also has his Cisco certification for networking. So Cody is your true expert and worker. He does a lot of the work that we're going to talk about today and understands it inside and out. That's why I asked him to come join this webinar, because it's an important subject, and I wanted the subject matter expert to be on the call with us, besides myself, the person that actually does the work, not only just the person that talks about doing the work. So at the end of the day, and Cody has his BS in information technology management. And this is a picture of Cody chilling by the water. But thanks for joining us, Cody.
Yeah,
All right.
no problem.
All right, so let's get started. We're going to talk about cybersecurity leadership. So cybersecurity is now an executive responsibility. It's not only an IT responsibility. When something does happen, the executives are also accountable. So, if something goes wrong, who is accountable? And it's the entire team that's accountable. It's not just your IT company or your IT professional that works for you. You're responsible as well. You have to know what you have. Regulators don't ask, what did IT do? They ask, what did leadership oversee? Oversight, documentation, proof that you have done everything possible to really secure your environment. No environment is 100% secure, I understand that. But let's not be the low-hanging fruit. The idea here is that cybersecurity oversight has three main pillars. An administrative, which is policy, procedures, how you do things, how you're going to react when something does happen. A technical, which is your tools that actually are doing some of the work and alerting if something that happened. That's where your IT department should be handling. Your IT company should be handling your security stack and tools. And then physical, site controls. If you're a healthcare organization, if somebody walks by and can see somebody's screen from a physical perspective, where your servers are behind locked doors, there is also that portion of it. The idea here is to go from a reactive model of security, which is basically having tools that are alerts after something happens, to a proactive model of security, which is where we are then looking at and trying to find holes and really going on the offensive, if you will, and really becoming a chief security officer. So first, let me talk about the reactive before I ask Cody to join us and talk about the proactive side. If you look at a chief security officer or a chief information officer that sits on the top of your entire IT stack, that C-level executive, that's an executive now, is worried about your compliance and also worried about layers that they have to protect. So let me explain those layers for you. And this is an infographic we put together because every layer has tools that you should implement to protect that specific layer. So not only one tool doesn't do everything. Like you say, some people tell us we have a firewall and we have an antivirus, we should be protected. It's not enough. You got to look at all the layers that need protection, and there are 6 of them. And I'll start with data. What we're trying to protect really is your data. your company's data, your client's data, your personal employees' data. Hackers hack you because they take your data ransom, because they sell your data online. That's what we're protecting. We're protecting data. And every piece of data that every single company has is produced by an application. Even if you want to type the word hello, you have to open up Word or Notepad or something to be able to type hello in it. An application produces every single piece of data. And if you look, data, we recommend the data loss prevention system and encryption, at least DLP, depending if you are under compliance. It's not for everybody. Application, we recommend an application allow listing solution to stop any other applications from running. But every single application that you have is installed on an endpoint, on a laptop, on a desktop, on a server, a terminal server, whatever it may be. Every single application installed on an endpoint. And we recommend an MDR and an MDM for protecting that layer. Every single endpoint is connected to a network. It's connected to a switch that's connected to a firewall that's going out to the internet. And if you're going to log into the network remotely, make sure you have multi-factor authentication and make sure we have enough group policies. We harden the environment in your network so that things alerts us and lets us know what happened. Again, these are all reactive layers. The perimeter is right outside the internet. Right before you get to the internet, you should have firewall, DNS sanitization, knowing that you're going to the right site, making sure you're not going to a site that is going to be malicious, and every site that you see should be scanned for any malicious code that may be in there before you bring it to your endpoint device, to your laptop or desktop that you're using. And obviously, email is outside your environment, and it's usually done through either M365 or hosted somewhere else. And you need security there as well. And then the last layer is humans. At the end of the day, humans need to have strong password management, but also need to learn what is a good website versus a bad one, what's a good link versus a bad one. Don't click on things you don't know. They need to have good hygiene when it comes to security. And then we also recommend cybersecurity insurance at the end of it all, because without insurance, this is a net. If something falls through the cracks, you want something to be able to catch you. And it all these layers on all these applications feed what we call a SIM, a security information and event management system. And that SIM has a SOC, a security operating system, center, that is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, looking at alerts and taking action. So that's a very tool-based security solutions that everybody should have. At least some of them should be in play, depending on the level of risk you were willing to take, because everything costs. So having said that, the idea is you can't manage what you cannot measure, right? So a risk assessment, let's go on the proactive side. So let's look at what you have now, and let's understand what a hacker would be able to get if they got access to it. Let's go on the proactive, not reactive. All the tools are reactive after something happens. But what happens if we want to go on the proactive side? Most companies have IT. Few have security leadership. Somebody that just focuses on security. They're not focusing on your IT and how your network is set up or what have you. They're focused on what happens if. What is exposed? What's your vulnerabilities? How can a hacker get access? How can they get penetration onto your network? Where are they going to land? So only about half of organizations have a clearly defined executive cyber risk ownership. They don't have somebody that owns security. Most people think IT owns security, and IT and security are two different pillars. Security needs to hold IT responsible for making sure things are patched where they need to be, but they also need to do pen tests and vulnerability assessment and look at what you have to make sure that you're protected. There's a lot to do. So we're going to go from a reactive approach to a proactive approach. So let's bring Cody in. And Cody, let's talk about a virtual chief security officer. We're talking about virtual because not all organizations are large enough to require somebody to come in internally and actually do that work 40 hours a week. But why do companies need to consider a chief security officer? What do you think?
Yeah, I think, a lot of orgs should consider a chief security officer as someone who is an expert in, cybersecurity and is able to define what risks your organization face and the best way to go about those risks. And that's generally what we're going to be, focused on when it comes to that C level is here are your risks, here's the cost of ignoring them. Should this lead to a breach? Are you under some sort of contractual obligations to have been doing something? Is there a regulatory body that you have to answer to if there's some sort of, breach or data loss or something like that? What is just the cost to your org being down if, your current setup is, oh, we can restore all the servers in a week. Is that acceptable? Or do you need something where we can restore, within hours, which is generally going to cost a little bit more, but, can you accept that sort of downtime? And then to present those risks to your organization's leadership and, let that leadership decide with, all the information what to do about it, and to bring up risks that maybe they don't know about, which is why we do vulnerability scanning and penetration testing. We'll try to do some attack surface mapping to see where are the potential problem areas, and try to either make you aware of them at the absolute minimum, or ideally give you a roadmap to better secure your environment.
Yeah, I mean that's a really great point. So it's the leadership of security. It's somebody to own the security, not only stack, but really the security environment altogether. So I put together a series of questions here. So ask yourself these questions to see if your cybersecurity is adequate, yes or no, right? Have you completed a formal risk assessment in the past year? What is a risk assessment? So let's discuss that a little bit. When we do a risk assessment, what do we show our clients? Let's talk about that a little bit, Cody, and why it's important to have a risk assessment done every year.
Yeah. So, one reason you might need to do a risk assessment is there are a lot of compliance reasons to do that. So if you are under any sort of compliance obligations to that, whether that be legal or contractual, you should be doing that risk assessment. And generally how we go about doing a risk assessment is we'll start out fairly general with the first one. We have a bunch of, already pre-made questions that we'll go through and we'll answer there. Then when we, get the answer to the question, we'll rate what your risk level is for each one of those areas. And if it's a, low enough risk, we'll say, hey, you're good. If it's a higher risk, we'll go, okay, here's some options for remediation. We'll try to get, budgets on those, whether that be, time, cost, anything like that. And then, present that to leadership and be like, and tell them, this is how you can go about this risk, or you can decide to accept the risk. There's other options. You can see a risk and like, oh, we're just not going to do this anymore. That's eliminating the risk. So, if you're doing something where you're under some sort of compliance obligation, but you just decide not to do that business anymore. Let's say you're in manufacturing and you have clients that are, or customers that are, requiring you to have your CMMC certification. You can look at that, look at the cost, and decide we're just not going to do that business anymore, and eliminate that risk of not being in compliance with CMMC regulations. There you can transfer the risk, which would be cyber insurance, and go about the different costs of each one of these risks. Then what we also will do is track new risks as they come up, and then track those. Generally on a monthly basis. We'll take a look at any open risks that haven't been remediated, and then the formal assessment will reassess everything on an annual basis.
Yeah, so it's really leadership. It's an executive level position that you would be getting into your environment to truly manage your security and your security risks, and creating assessments to understand what you're good living with and what the holes are, that at least what's happening, versus thinking that everything's covered and I should be good, and not understanding that. Because at the end of the day, as the next question is cyber risk clearly owned by an executive level. And that's what we were talking about, right? You have to have more than IT look at cybersecurity, because cybersecurity is also policies and procedures that you may have. It's an incident response plan that needs to be created and tested. A tabletop exercise. What happens if our servers are down? How are we going to continue to operate to make sure that our company doesn't go under? If you pre-plan for the worst, you're ready no matter what happens. So is cybersecurity viewed as a defined leadership cadence? Are you meeting regularly with your cybersecurity professional? Are you going through what's happening from a risk perspective and understanding who your problem employees are, understanding what your security stack is, and understanding how alerts are being handled, accounts with elevated rights. If you have an admin that is, maybe a secretary, but she should not have admin rights to be able to change people's password or install her own software. So there's all kinds of things that we look at. And you document and test an incident response plan, what I just said. Let's talk about an incident response plan a little bit, Cody, because you do quite a bit of those. What do you look for in creating an incident response plan?
Yeah, so incident response plan. I'm guessing a lot of people on this use MVP for their managed service provider. So your incident response plan should, be contacting MVP, should be part of that. And we'll handle a lot of that versus if you have, internal IT, they're going to need to, build out the different procedures given the different incidents and stuff like that. But you should still have the plan documented, and here's the steps we're going to take. If you have cyber insurance, you want to note who is actually responsible for contacting the cyber insurance provider should there be an incident. That'll be a delay in some incident responses of, who's supposed to do this? When are we supposed to do this? Anything like that, where if you, document it, person A, person B can, contact this, open up the case with them, get that rolling. For those sorts of things. Also, there's incidents outside of your org that might, impact it. If you're, using some other sort of software provider that's storing your data and they have an incident, well, you have an incident too now, and you should react to that. And maybe, that's just going to be at a leadership level of how do we react when this service is down now? We use this as our ERP or as our CRM, and it's down because they had a cyber incident. What do we do? What are our backup plans to operate, while that is down, while they're restoring? If you have connections to a different provider, how do we shut those down in a, quick way? Do we actually have communications with, our important providers where they're going to tell us when there is some sort of an incident, that we're not ignoring those emails, saying that there's a problem? Anything like that should be documented in there. And then, why we do the tabletop is so everyone who's in the plan understands it, understands what they're supposed to do, who's supposed to handle what, who, if someone's out of the office, let's say they're on vacation in another country or something like that, who do those responsibilities then fall to? Who can make the decisions? Who makes the calls, in an incident? And if you're doing that in real time, when there's an incident, there's a lot more confusion. People get scared, they can lock up. And that's, when things just get worse versus if you have the plan, you've tested the plan. I can be kind of mean on the tabletops when we do them, where I'm, hey, the worst thing has happened. What are you going to do about it? And if you've gone through that situation and the steps you need to take, it can, make everything a lot nicer should the plan actually happen. And we really hope you never have to activate your, IR plan.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. It's really leadership and security we're talking about. It's really looking at every scenario before it happens so that it's documented, understood. You know what will happen if you're prepared for the worst, then and hope for the best. That's the way we attach security. Security to me and to us in general is zero trust. We don't trust anybody. We don't trust any application. We just make sure that we have a plan. We look for vulnerabilities before an issue happens. The idea is to be proactive. All the tools in the world are all reactive tools. To be proactive is to actually run scans, do a risk assessment, and look at policy procedures and sit and discuss what happens if, and get a plan built so that you're ready for it. Basically is to demonstrate oversight to regulators, to insurers, to customers that you've done your best. And even though you may have an incident, you've been preparing for the incidents. You're ready to go. So, I'll look at it from a perspective of that security is not a state, it's a process, right? And these are things. So if you engage us to be your chief security officer, one thing we do is that we meet weekly. And on a weekly basis, we'll look at your IT security status review. We look at critical alerts that have been escalated. We looked at active threat monitoring happening in real time, and we take action and we let you know about it. And we meet on a weekly basis just to review all the findings from our scans and what have you. But then monthly, we look at your backup and validation of the backup. Make sure that you have a backup that's not part of your environment, that's also outside to a different tertiary data center or somewhere else, so that even if you get hacked, at least you have your data secure. We do vulnerability scanning on a monthly basis, security meetings and documented notes. We look at every policy procedure you may have and help you make sure it's tied into your goals and your business values. And then phishing simulation, and we'll send fake emails to your employees and see if they clicked on something, see who's going to cause you the most risk, and train them. The idea is to really be proactive. And then obviously I'll have Cody talk about this a little bit more, because Cody actually does a lot of those meetings and does a lot of the scans. So Cody, let's talk about it from a high level here. From what the process is of having a chief security officer in the environment.
Yeah, so you have, a lot of the things we do in here. It's not everything. We'll do contract reviews. If you have a customer that has cybersecurity requirements, we'll look at that. And, lots of times those will be the drivers of, the security stance we're going to take place. So some will be very, very strict. Hey, you have to follow, this compliance framework, and so we'll make sure that compliance framework is met in everything you need to do. So in order to do that, we're going to meet with your internal IT. If you have internal IT, we're going to meet with whoever in your org is your internal security officer, which all orgs should know who internally is their security officer. That should be a leadership level position. Often it's going to be tacked on to someone's job. Person in charge of finance, or if you have a medical data, is it going to be someone there who's a privacy officer, which should be two different things if you're org that's handling a lot of private data. So we're going to work with them and see what the state is and what we have to do to increase the security of that. And it's going to be something where we'll start off with, like you said before, the low-hanging fruit. Okay, here's what we can do quickly that will secure the environment most. And then we'll work from that to, slowly make the environment more secure as new threats, come up. Like, a few years ago, shadow AI wasn't a problem. Now, shadow AI is everywhere. Do you know what AI, tools your staff are using? Some of them will work just fine. Others, if you put data into them, that data now belongs to the AI company. And if you're putting the wrong information in that, you can run into, a lot of risk, whether that be competitive disadvantage or, breaking the law. So, to be cognizant of that, learn, and then, what we'll do is tailor this to your org, because different orgs have different threats, they have different concerns. And so it's not like a one size fits all situation.
Yeah, I agree. And you mentioned something like somebody internal to the company has to be responsible for security. Now, that doesn't mean they have to learn security. That means they use us and we let them know what decisions needs to be made. We'll give them the options. We let them know what options they have, what risk they have, and they can make a decision if they're willing to live with a risk or not. and some risks are small and living with them is fine, and then some risks are larger. But at least you know, at least you've documented, you have a plan in place. So it's really a process and looking at everything that you have. So I want to let you know that oversight, though, does not mean micromanagement. It's not like we're going to come in and micromanage everything that you do. It's oversight, though. It's oversight to your IT staff to make sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, and they're doing the patch management they're supposed to be doing, and plugging in all the vulnerabilities that we find. Um, Doing the penetration testing, make sure your firewall and your MDR, your antivirus is able to stop anything from happening, and really testing these. But it's not micromanaging them. It's working together, pulling in the same direction, if you will. Just leadership when it comes to security, leadership when it comes to policies and procedures. Out of the three pillars, IT only handles one pillar, which is the technical side. Somebody has to handle the physical and then administrative. So we'll come in with security meetings, board reporting, and have a map of what's priorities need to be focused on. At the end of the day, the missing link is governance. Someone responsible for security strategy, not just tickets. Somebody that lets their C-level person responsible understand the risks and help govern security. You were going to say, Cody?
Oh, yeah. One thing I wanted to bring up when it comes to the, administrative controls, the policies and procedures is I can give you, policies and procedures all day long. What I can't do is make your org actually follow those policies and procedures. And that's why it's really important that at a leadership level, someone is, knowledgeable of, hey, we have these policies and procedures, is able to, enforce them with your staff, that they have to follow them. Same thing when it comes to the, cybersecurity training, who's actually going to say, employee, you have to do this to, continue your work here. Otherwise, you're putting our org at risk.
Agreed. And it's a partnership. It's a leadership role that you would be outsourcing to come in and manage security. That way you don't have to rely on your IT company or your internal IT staff for everything, because they can't double check their own work at the end of the day, and they don't know what they don't know. Cody and his team that only focuses on security really focus on a proactive approach. Let's see where the holes are. Let's come up with a plan and get you prepared for any issues that may arrive. At the end of the day, let's govern your security. Governance transforms security into strategy. Threat intelligence, risk analysis, security accountability, really understanding where your security framework looks like, and help you create a map and accountability and a response plan so that you're ready if anything does happen. But hopefully we've done enough so that nothing does happen. But we stay on top of it, because security changes every day. Hackers come up with new ways to hack you. Social engineering is a big piece. And now with AI, where you could have deep fakes. And what that is basically, what if your CEO, with his voice and video, calls your CFO and says, I need you to wire me 200 grand to this account right away. It's important. And they're actually having a conversation and answering questions. And AI can do that now. And all they need is just one sentence of somebody's voice and one picture, and they can make a video from that to make it look and sound like the CEO is actually talking and requesting this. Believe it or not, we see it on a regular basis. It's disturbing, but it's reality. And if you understand all the risks and everything else is in place, you have policies and procedures around that, you're being proactive, you're understanding what's happening. If something does happen, well, at least when your clients come to you or your vendors come to you that you have relationship with, and they tell you what happened, or a regulator comes to you, at least you can show them that you've done everything possible down to the incident response, and you know what you're going to do next and how you're going to handle it. When oversight is working, you have documented risks, board-ready reporting, a tested incident response plan that we go through the phases and actually test it and take a server down and see what's going to happen, and then an executive visibility to understand every risk. that you have. I mean, what else would you add here, Cody, when it comes to that?
Yeah, I would say, also we're going to be able to provide you with the roadmaps to, take care of risks. Is we'll, work with you through that. We will try to find the cheapest option to, remediate these risks. There's, something where we don't want to put a $10 lock to protect $5. So we're going to be looking at that as well and try to make sure you're not, just purchasing something because you need, because you think you need to when you don't, that you're, only getting the, security in place that you need for your org that meets your, specific, needs or obligations.
Yeah, I agree. And a lot of people get worried about, one, what we're going to find. A lot of internal IT staff don't like the idea. The good ones like it. But because they don't know what they don't know and they don't want to look bad. But it's not about that. It's not about them looking bad. And it's not about anything else except securing your environment and really giving leadership in your company and understanding of where the risks are. That doesn't mean you're not going to take the risk, but it just means
Yeah.
you'll know where they are.
And I want to throw in a lot of, good internal IT people or IT people in general know where a lot of these risks are. They just haven't been listened to, or been able to, provide that, here's the actual risk, here's what it could cost your org, if this isn't, taken care of. We'll talk to a lot of internal IT and it's like, yeah, this has been a problem. And it's not until, we're able to get that messaging right to leadership to actually get some of these things taken care of. So we like helping out internal IT.
Yeah, absolutely. And once we're inside and there's internal IT, obviously we pull in the same direction. And even if there is an internal IT, having somebody responsible for security is key. Working with, it could be us on the other side from an IT perspective. It could be another MSP. It could be whatever it is. It's zero trust security. That's what we're bringing in, but leadership when it comes to that. Cybersecurity leadership should reduce risk, but not add complexity. We don't want to make it so hard that you don't understand and it becomes overwhelming. Our job is to take it is complicated, right? It's security. But at the same time, our job is to do the complicated piece and then deliver in plain English what your decision needs to be and your risk level needs to be so that you could understand what you have to do and you understand where your risks are. And obviously training your employees and everything else that we do with vulnerability assessment and penetration testing and incident response plan created will then give you that guidance. And that way you are prepared, not only if you're under compliance, just in general, if you want to protect yourself, if you want to protect your data, you want to protect your clients' data, do everything possible, go proactive. Don't just go reactive and have tools to hopefully protect you if something does happen. Let's look at how it could happen. Let's look at holes that people can gain access to. Let's make sure accounts don't have elevated rights. Let's create an incident response plan. Let's test your backup on a regular basis. Let's do all the things on a weekly and monthly basis that you need to do in general. And your IT providers are doing a great job keeping the network up and running, giving you standard security stack, but they look at alerts. They're reactive. This is a proactive approach to what we're asking and what we're saying you should do. Before the next incident, ask yourself, really, are you ready? I mean, I say, look in the mirror and tell me, are you ready? Do you feel confident enough that everything's protected? Do you have an incident response plan? Have you seen it? Do you know who's responsible for your security internally? Have you run an assessment? Whether being a small assessment, free assessment, have you done all the stuff that you need to do to tell your clients if something does happen, or your vendors or whoever you're working with or your employees, I've done everything possible and got proactive to make sure that things don't happen. Things may still happen, but I've done everything possible. Few things happen when you do everything possible. One, cyber insurance obviously is key, but you'll be able to prove to your cyber insurance provider that you've done everything possible so they'll pay the claim if there is one. Two, you prove to your clients, employees that you're on the proactive side. It's not like you just sat back and have antivirus and a firewall and say, I'm good, nothing's going to happen to us. Who wants us? We're small. I hear that all the time, but most hackers are lazy and they go after somebody that is not prepared because it's easier at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So having said all that, and the importance of a chief security officer, please consider adding that to your environment and really go through the process for a year to really create what you have. And then you'll notice that it's going to have to be a continuous thing that you need to stay ahead of it. But at least you'll create an incident response plan. At least you'll have a solid backup disaster recovery solution. You'll understand your vulnerabilities, your risks altogether. So what we're offering in this webinar is, here's what we could do. We're going to give you a free cybersecurity assessment and evaluation. Just go to mvpworks.com/cyber, or put it in the note, in the chat, or a question, or whatever you may want to be, however you want to get a hold of us. But what we're going to do is we're going to evaluate it. We're going to do what we call a mini pen test, something small. 5 people in your environment is enough to really understand your security posture, because at the end of the day, all it takes is one person clicking on one link they're not supposed to click, and they opened up the floodgates, Pandora's box, if you will. And we won't need to come on site. We will not ask you for any administrative credentials, because hackers don't ask you for those. Hackers go and scour the dark web and see how they're able to trick you to click on something you're not supposed to click. We won't install anything on your network. We're going to run in the background and really evaluate in a small subset where your risks are. This is not going to cost you anything. If you're interested, we'll do that for you, just to let you know what your risks are, and to show you if you feel that you need a cybersecurity leadership, a VCISO, if you will, that will come in and actually dive deep into your security. So we'll send you a link, and you'll send those to 5 key people. You're going to click on run, and it'll start the scan. And then we'll meet with you later and go through your confidential report so that you can understand what the risks are. Are we able to crack your passwords? Are we able to find social security numbers in your environment? Where is your files encrypted? Can I reach your backup and delete them? Can I reach your server and mine information out of it? What's going to happen if you click on something you're not supposed to click? Let us test that for you. And then so that you could see the value of having a leader that looks at a C-level leader that looks at your policy procedures, look at the 3 pillars that has to do with security, which is administrative, technical, and physical overall. So anything else you want to add, Cody, that you think people will find helpful and educational when it comes to that?
I guess it's important to know your risks and where you're, vulnerable, and, decide to either, remediate those risks or to accept them and know, yep, this is potential that could happen. And we're going to accept that.
Yeah. And then, are your controls reviewed on a schedule with gaps tracked for remediation? I know these holes, and I'm going to patch these holes, but I'm going to be prepared in the future so I can always look like I'm improving. So I can prove to auditors and our clients that we take security seriously, and we have their best interests at heart. And really, that's what it's all about. So we really thought about, we've been a security company for a while, for a long time now, but we've always been a very reactive. And with Cody and his team, it allowed us to offer a proactive approach to security, to stay ahead of it, because we don't want hackers to win. Enough is enough with people clicking on stuff and causing havoc. We see it on a regular basis. We do incident response for our clients that get hammered. We've seen grown men cry because they can't get their data. They don't know who owes them money. They don't know what the next project is. They don't know what they're supposed to ship. All that is important that's part of the risk assessment that we'll be doing for you, and actually part of the VCISO service. So I hope you guys found this beneficial. Let me see if we have any questions. I haven't looked yet.
Hey, Ikram, we had a few questions come in.
Okay, all right.
What's the best way to get buy-in from departments that see security as slowing them down?
that's a good question. And it really comes from the top down, right? Security has to be top of mind. It has to be a culture change that you're taking security seriously. And a lot of people see it as micromanagement. They see it as too much. But at the end of the day, if it comes from the top down and it should, they see value and how it's going to protect them, then yeah, that's how you do it. What do you think, Cody?
Yeah, I guess the first question is it unnecessarily slowing them down? Is there a better way to go about, implementing the same security control, but in a way that causes less friction? That is a goal, is to not be noticed when you're doing, security. There's lots of situations where you have to, we're dealing with very, very complex, environments here. Even a small network, all of your different vendors and everything like that. It can be really good to slow down and take a breath and making sure you're making the right, choices in things and not just, mindlessly clicking on stuff. Or, responding to someone who isn't who you think it is, adding some extra steps and taking a breath can be really, really beneficial for a lot of orgs. Hey, I got this email saying, the CEO needs these gift cards. I have to jump in and do it right away. I don't have time to double check that they do it. The CEO said they did, and that's not actually the CEO that you're talking to here. Having some of those controls that do slow you down can be necessary, but I guess the first thing I would say is look and what is the actual slowdown, and can we make that, can we reduce that friction for the department?
Yeah, good point. Hope that
Wonderful.
answered your question. Anything else, Christy?
Yes. Are there legal implications to the individual if you oversee cybersecurity? And does cyber insurance protect them, the individual?
Cody, you want to tackle that?
I am not an attorney, so in general, if you are, doing your best and not being negligent, not being malicious, you as an individual are I have not seen much for prosecution. There was, I believe it was Uber had a executive that was criminally held responsible for some things, but I believe that was due to a cover up. Again, I am not an attorney. For it when it comes to actual, legal obligations. I'm sorry, there was a second part of that question.
And does cyber insurance protect them?
So it depends on the cyber insurer, I'm sure, but every single cyber insurance company I've worked with will provide an attorney that works for you, not for the insurer. They actually just pay for an attorney that should be safeguarding you, making sure you're following the law. So that is something where you should be following the law, and an attorney who specializes in business, at least, if not cyber law, should be the one telling you what your legal obligations are when it comes to that sort of thing. And so if you are in an incident, that is a fantastic benefit of having cyber insurance, is they give you a specialist who knows the law. They will generally be big enough where they can have individuals who know specific state laws. So if you're operating in New York, we have some obligations that might be different if you're operating in a different state, or if you have a presence in a different state who is also impacted.
Yeah, I mean, I'll add that happens from the insurance company after an incident, right? The insurance company doesn't assign you an attorney when you just first signed the dotted line. So they do that after an incident. What we're talking about here is proactive approach before an incident. So what we're talking about is make sure that way when insurance come back to you, an attorney gets involved because something did happen, they're going to ask you what you've done to secure your environment. What is your policy procedures? Have you done a tabletop exercise? Do you have an incident response plan? And that way they can gauge if they should pay or not. They can gauge how much help you should get. So it's really important to really understand and go on that proactive side to understand where your risks are and work with them. But are you responsible at the end of the day? This is your company. You're responsible to protect the data, and you're responsible to live with the risks. But if you need to know the risks to know what you're living with. really.
Yeah, generally, if there's legal consequences, it'll be against the org as a whole, not as like an individual, unless something, unless they were really doing something neglectful or nefarious. But again, not an attorney. This is not legal advice.
All right, thank you, Cody. Christy?
That is all the questions that have come in. Yes,
All right, well,
just double check.
All right. Well, if that's the case, I hope everybody found this helpful. We find that a lot of the companies that use us for this service really gets a good handle on their security and understand where the holes are, and if they do have an incident after the fact. Most of them don't end up having an incident because we stay on top of it and run vulnerability assessment and look at zero trust and zero vulnerabilities, 0-day vulnerabilities and what have you. But it does happen. If it does happen, at least you have a plan now and know exactly what to do, who you're going to call, what the next steps are. And it proves to your insurance company that you're doing everything possible. And it proves to your clients that you're being proactive and doing everything you can, that things happen, but you're not negligent. You're a professional and you're doing everything that's right for them. So I hope you guys found this beneficial. If you guys are interested in learning more and going through our roadmap on how we take you there, going through the detail now, we talked from a very high level. If you want to learn more, let us know, but run that scan. Yeah, it will give you a good understanding of what's happening. Email me, my email is right there, or go to MVPworks/cyber, and for mvpworks.com/cyber and sign up, and we'll run the scan for you and let you know. Is that another question that came in? Yes, you can get a copy of the presentation. Absolutely, Roger. Good to see you. And we're available for you if you have any other questions. All right, everybody. Thank you for your time. We'll end now and give you back 12 minutes here, 13 minutes. Have a good day, everybody. Have a good week. Bye.